The Wednesday Week is sponsored by Michael Constantine Wealth Management. We bet you can't find a financial advisor closer to Hillsborough Stadium.
Easily tidied up at the back. Oh, real mistake. And a chance here for Savage! Deflected wide and behind for the corner. Savage. Garrick's in the middle. Jordan Garrick! Could we be heading for a huge League One shot?
Hello and welcome to an episode of the Wednesday Week, the Sheffield Wednesday podcast. My name's Dan Fudge, and this week Sheffield Wednesday are on the back of a 2-game losing streak. The Owls are currently in a perceived run of terrible form, racking up only 1 point from an available 9, and that's in the last 3 games. Is it time to panic about our promotion chances? And has the excuse of a 23-game unbeaten run lost its sparkle? Joining me tonight, I've got to make sense of it, is Vic, Hollie and Simon. How's it going, gang? You all right? How was your day, Si? Did you have a good time?
Yeah, great. Loved it. Every minute of it. Down in London. Busy.
Yeah.
Back now to talk about this. Yeah.
And
great.
And yeah, how was your Sunday, Vic? All right for you? A good day out? Like, you know what I mean? Did you enjoy watching the football? It was fun, wasn't it?
I just went to the pub, so I was all right. I didn't have to travel down, but can't wait for Wednesday. So.
Yes. So Cheltenham on Wednesday, and Hollie, how was walking up that hill with your father? Who got up? You know, I remember you were whinging about going up a hill to near the ground.
I think we lost. I think the attendance went down the further up the hill that we went there. We lost some people. That was a bad hill.
Is it like when when it's on like like you see those you hear or you read about those frozen bodies on the side of Mount Everest and they just left them there?
I needed Sherpa. I told him to go on without me.
Ash got to the top, so we're all right. There was a guy at the top with oxygen.
Oh shit!
You get a text message in 2004, Fudge.
Right, fuck off. Right, all right, so I'll tell you, it was Simon telling me that my microphone was distorting a bit, so he just wanted to give me a surreptitious heads up. So thanks for bringing that up. Appreciate it. Fuck's sake.
That old, modem noise. God, you're right, Mardy arse.
Honestly, today you wound me up.
I wound you up.
You've all wound me up. You've done me head in all day because trying to get 4 of us together, ladies and gents, listening to this, right, is like herding kittens, okay? And so, like, you know what I mean? So we've got, can you come on this Wednesday? Oh, I've got a quiz. That's you, right? Oh, yeah, I've got Ethan's bloody football thing. I'm coaching. I've got parents' evening. I've got this on. I've got that on, and I just want to pull my fucking eyes out, like, you know what I mean?
Luckily, I'm really easygoing.
Sorry, we're all busy on Wednesday night.
Well, one, it's Monday, so jot that down. You know what I mean? And then now I'm trying to do a sort of
I can do Monday or Tuesday, darling, whatever you want.
So there we are. Look, we moved the recording date for Princess Vic, and then all of a sudden she's outing me for getting a bloody text message at Christ knows what time at night. Like, you know what I mean? I'm trying to keep it professional here, lads. I'm glad one of us is keeping this show together. Like, you know what I mean?
Whoa.
I've had enough.
Shall we get on?
Any road. As you can tell, we're all in top mood after losing our second game on the bounce. I thought I'd use that as a segue there. After losing our second game on the bounce against Forest Green Rovers. Now, Simon, you went down there all the way to Gloucestershire. Is it there? Yeah. Is that what it is? Is that the county it's in?
Yeah, it's a really, really strange place where it is.
So
we got the bus down. So the bus picked us up at 6:30 yesterday morning outside the Master. So I was up at 5. Yeah, but clocks went forward, so I was up at 4. Which is fine for a man of my age. I'm used to getting up, but trying to get a 14
year old out of bed. For a wee, Simon.
Yeah, that's that prostate issue. Hooray! But to get a 14, 15-year-old up was mighty difficult. Yeah, strange old place. Went to Stroud first for a few beverages, to Spoons in Stroud, where they had 2 members of staff on, and 5 coaches turned up with Wednesday fans in. So you can imagine what that was like.
What time did you get there? I hope it weren't after midday because you can't get any toast.
Can't get toast. You can't get bloody toast. Where's it gone?
No, it was about 9:30, so we got full breakfast. And then we went off into this little village. It was like, I can imagine it was like Lord of the Rings territory up this hill, this huge hill. But luckily we didn't have to walk up because the bus took us up. And then this quaint little football ground at the top of this hill. It was just a strange little place. But then after that, it went shit downhill, and they put us in our place, and it was rubbish.
I found it quite amusing that, like, because obviously I didn't go, but my other half's got an electric car, and they got like so close to the ground. Then they were like, "No, you've got to get out, lads. You've got to get out and get on the diesel bus to the ground." And it was like,
park and ride.
Green Rovers or what? It was like,
and they have electric charging points outside the stadium as well.
Yeah, but you can't drive there.
But there's no cars parked there. Exactly. They stop you at the bottom of the hill.
You need to charge it halfway uphill anyway, to be fair.
It's the most bizarre place. It is weird. It is really weird. It's like, it felt like Stocksbridge Park Steels, but without the cricket ground at the side. It was really strange. And the terracing was so small. I think Hollie got there after kickoff, didn't you? And you could not get. I went for a wee. Nobody would get out the way when I was going for a wee. Again, 52-year-old man needed a wee. And then coming back, I'm just stood there looking at all these blokes in front of me. And right, let's try and find my way back. It was just the most bizarrest football ground ever.
I'll tell you what, Simon, you're like me. You're trying to stave off the effects of aging, like I do. Maybe not to the extent that I do, but like, you know what I mean.
You do, bloody hell.
But I feel like you could have used your grey head and your grey beard to go, "Excuse me, Duck. I can't see. My eyes are on stalks and I can't see."
Right,
You know what I mean?
right. Hang on a minute. I'm starting to get a little bit victimised here. Last week you accused me of being a wife beater without me actually being here, and this week now you're accusing me of being an octogenarian. What the f***'s going on, Dad?
I tell you what. Right. Anyway, football. Is there a podcast HR? I don't know.
Let me have a word.
So let's get into the game, shall we? Ollie can't walk up hills and Simon can't see. This is going to be some great analysis, this, lads. I tell you what. So right, the game starts. Hollie, pretty pedestrian from the team, right? You know what I mean? It wasn't great start. wasn't a great style. Weren't great movement. Did you feel like there was an element of complacency creeping in terms of how they played and whatnot?
I don't know. I think what I would like to think is that they just absolutely gave it their all against Barnsley. They gave it everything that they had, and then they had nothing left. That's what I'd like to think, because that's better than it just being that they couldn't be bothered. There were loads of positives from Barnsley that I obviously chose to ignore at that point, but there were no positives at all from this game. There were no positives at all. Nobody showed football at all. Somebody said we had 66% of possession, which was just Flint to Dawson, Dawson to Flint.
Yeah,
Dawson.
Then Kyle for back to
that was it. Nobody showed football. When we didn't have ball, they were literally walking around like. So I would like to think maybe they made them walk up the hill. Maybe
they made them walk up that hill.
If Megson was in charge, that'd have been part of the training scheme anyway, wouldn't it? Like, you know what I mean? He's got previous to that. Now, Vic, listen, there's nothing that I get no joy out of saying this, but Cameron Dawson was pretty poor to start with, wasn't he, in that first half. No, I tell you what.
I think there's only Cameron Dawson that can walk away from that match. Maybe Aidan Flint and keep his head held high. I think everyone else, including Barry Bannon, and I am sorry to our Lord and Saviour, Barry Bannon, I love him a lot, but I don't think anyone but Dawson and Flint can walk away from that with any sort of pride in them at all. And I don't think either of them
was all right, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he was dropping deep because there was nobody in midfield. So
there was just nobody. And then what I couldn't understand is if you watch it back, and I have watched it back since.
Why?
I know. But whenever the ball came to Michael Smith, he headed it away from goal every single time. And I don't know if that's a new tactic. Like, does he head it down to, little and large, as Sky called them the other night, 6'2" Lee Gregory and 6'6" Michael Smith? Like, does he head it down for him? or is he heading it down for someone else? But every single time the ball came to Smith in the box on his head, he headed it away from the goal.
We must be practicing that 50p head thing that we did at Barnsley.
Like, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? What are you doing that for? And I just, it was funny actually. I was in the pub and my friend John Gill, friend of the show, pointed out that Michael Smith, if he was more clinical, would have played above League One. And I was like, shut up. Of course he has. He hasn't. And he's right.
Yeah, there's a reason Rotherham sold him to us, to be fair, isn't there? Like, you know what I mean? We like to think we've got one over.
He scored great on the day, but I just don't think anyone came away with that with a shred of dignity. Apart from Dawson.
But look, I'm being facetious about Dawson.
But he saved it with his foot, didn't he?
Yeah, there was the one at the start where he did a pretty poor back pass out of his area, and then I think they almost, and then there was the goal, and then he got beat on his near post. But I wouldn't really. It would be harsh of me to blame that on Dawson. I feel like I think Palmer should have got goal side of him. He got left a little bit stranded, as it were, and then they nearly scored early on in the second half, didn't they, Si? I mean, Christ, they to say we had all that possession, they had more shots on goal than we did, right? Do you know what? I should check.
We were bereft of ideas, mate. From the start to the finish, the whole setup, the way. I mean, we were saying about the possession. It did see, because we were actually quite near the front, because everybody was near the front because it's such a small compact ground. But the constant passing between Flint, Iorfa, Flint, Dawson, and I think Marvin Johnson, I don't know whether you noticed, Hollie, Marvin Johnson was stood over the dugout in the first half like this. It was like he needed a couple of flags, semaphore, to say, I'm here, I'm free. Palmer...
I got Simon, sorry. Is that how you used to communicate back in the 70s with semaphore?
Right, I'm going in a minute.
Is that podcast HR?
He sent table tennis rackets that they have at airport in Spain.
That's it. No, what we did is we used carrier pigeon and occasionally smoke signals.
And you also made definite plans to arrive at a certain time. And then when you arrived to pick somebody up, you got out the car and knocked on the door, as opposed to just texting somebody outside and go, come here.
Yeah. When we had cars.
Imagine that, kids. Imagine that, kids.
Once he got a car.
Once we got cars. When everything was in black and white when he walked outside, it was like, you walked out the house and it was like a Lowry.
You just see like, no! Oh, Simon's here.
Anyway, moving on. It was just, I don't know. I think we all sort of stood there and thought, what the hell's going on? Because obviously it was built up, and I know on the group chat we were talking about, Steve was going on about Gregory, and I actually thought Gregory was one of the better players yesterday as well. He's going to get 4 or 5, and I think we were turning up to a game where we thought it was going to be a cricket score. And did the players think that? I mean, reading some of the interviews with Moore today, I think he felt we were going to have a lot of possession, but probably not necessarily between the 3 players at the back. Midfield, nobody was coming for the ball, and I think that was if we're gonna lay any fault anywhere, some fault. Obviously, a lot's got to be done by the players. Some of it also has to be taken by the manager. Was the dropping of Will Volks, because Will Volks is that player who comes and collects the ball. And Backinson, what was he doing? He was. It looked like he'd been on sedatives. He was just stood in the middle of the park. He's a big lad. I mean, we were when they were warming up, we're thinking, Jesus, they're a big set of players. And he was just stood there in the middle. No movement, no coming for the ball, expecting the ball to come to him. And Forest Green, who by all accounts were missing half of their first team anyway, just hurried and didn't allow them. So there was some amount of work that midfield had to do, and they did none at all. And it was bereft of that.
Was it a case, Simon? Like, obviously you and Hollie were there. I was just watching on Sky. But was the pitch narrower than what we used to?
I've heard it was. But obviously, because you're so close to it, I mean, you could actually see the curve of the pitch going over. You couldn't, because there's no stand that sits up like anything like at Hillsborough, so you can't actually see how big the pitch is. But what it did seem to be is it seemed to cut up a lot. It really did seem to cut up the pitch. But they just worked harder. We just did. I mean, the last time I saw midfield as bad as that was the Fleetwood in the Cup replay, where he actually played Fizz, Adeniran, and Backinson in the middle of the park, and they were as bad, if not the same then. And then the Smith heading it. You see, Smith I thought worked really well against Barnsley, heading the ball on to Greggs. But again, he didn't seem to rise as high. Like you say, the ball went anywhere bar from towards Gregory, to the point where Gregory was having to come back, and he was actually coming back and tackling. He was actually defending at one point. It was.
I do agree. I do agree. He shouldn't have dropped votes. I agree. But if they're not going to be able to play against Forest Green, who are on this awful run, bottom of the league, haven't won all this year, then who are they going to play against? Why were people earlier on in the season saying that we had strength in depth when we quite obviously haven't? If they play like that against a team like that, they weren't even good.
Absolutely agree. And we, at the start of the season, I remember John and Steve saying, we've got this big squad, and we signed Backinson, and we'd already got Adeniran, and we'd already got Fizz, and obviously bringing Volks in. And we were saying, this is going to really stand us in good stead towards the end of the season when players start getting injured and so on and so forth, and other teams. They've not. Is it because, I don't know about Backinson's contract, but is it because Adeniran and Fizz are already got their eyes somewhere else? Because obviously Adeniran's contract finishes.
Well, if you were watching that, though, anyone who wants them, they're not going to.
But have they signed? have they already signed somewhere else? I do. I am very suspicious. I'm very suspicious of Fizz. You know, everything that was touted around the press of him going to Turkey and going to Italy and this, that, and the other. Then he's not signed the contract. I know tapping up is something that is illegal, but is it the fact that somebody said to him, "Look, we'll sign you at the end of the season, rather than having to sign pay a fee to Wednesday." Now, this is all allegedly. You know, it's in my head. We'll pay you a little bit more. And so he's already got in his head, I'm signing for somebody else. It smacked some of those players, a few years ago, Adam Reach, Fernando, these players who the contracts were run out, and you know what? They didn't really give a shit.
Do you know what, though? We're absolutely nowhere near the skill of either of those players that you've mentioned.
No, they haven't. And they haven't. I mean, Adeniran's come back, and I loved him. I thought it was a great signing. And he's come back, and he just doesn't look interested.
No, he doesn't.
How can they sit and watch that run that we've just been on and sit on the bench and not be like itching to get on the pitch? And then they get the chance, and they think that's an appropriate standard. They think that just walking when we haven't got the ball is.
But you and I, all of us have got a Wednesday heart, haven't we? So if we were professional footballers, right, we would, because we love Wednesday, you know, we would. But these are guys who've been doing this since they were 14, 15. You know what? They're going to get paid tomorrow, aren't they? They're going to get paid next week.
I think for me, like I said about earlier with the narrow pitch, sorry, Fudge, I'll stop in a minute. I was just going to say that I think for me, and I have very, very, very rarely criticised Darren Moore. I've always been, you know, people tweet me, slating me, say I'm a happy clapper and I'm up his arse and whatever else. Even 22 games ago, they were saying it. But for me, he's set up completely wrong. If that pitch was narrow, then wing-backs do not work on that setup. And they will have absolutely gone out there. Like Marvin Johnson in the first half didn't get a touch. Second half, we moved things about a bit, and he actually got a few balls in. He did all right. And I'm very pro Marvin Johnson on his day. Off his day, I'm very anti Marvin Johnson. But for me, there was just he didn't look at that beforehand. And that for me is just bizarre, because Darren Moore's, you know, his tactics at the start of the season and the end of last season, we can all agree. Sometimes we were all sat there going, who the hell's he bringing on? What's he doing here? But then for the last 23 games, he's got it bob on, and we've all held our hands up and gone, do you know what? I thought that were wrong, but he was actually spot on. I just cannot think why on a pitch that looked as narrow as it did, it could have just been Sky. I've not Googled it or whatever since. But why would you play sort of like a 5-3-2, which eventually ends up as a 3-5-2, doesn't it? Because of the way you play. But why would you do that on a narrow pitch? It doesn't work.
Well, I don't think Simon and Hollie know, because he couldn't see and she was stuck on a hill. So you know what I mean. We never know what's happening. We could have seen it. We couldn't have done. I mean, you probably had a better view than we did, Vic.
But they didn't narrow the pitch just for that game, did they?
No, exactly. So he knew what was coming.
Yeah.
Well, this is what I was going to ask. So, do you feel like that they've? I'll come to you on this, Simon. Do you feel like they've done their, like Sheffield Wednesday have been found out somewhat a little bit, given the last 3 games that we've had, and they've done their homework on us, and we haven't done our homework on the fact that Forest Green have got this, running track as a pitch.
I think there's anybody can watch all the games back, can't they? And any team must do the homework on Wednesday or whoever we're playing. I would hope that Darren Moore's done his homework did his homework on Forest Green Rovers. I think there were a number of issues. We can talk about the width of the pitch and it not suiting our style of play, in which case then it is a management issue in regards to we should have changed the way we played. We can also talk about, again, Will Volks. I thought that was poor not picking him. I also thought as well, I felt it was a bit bizarre taking Iorfa off and bringing Hunt on. I don't know what that added to.
Oh, Iorfa was dog shit though.
And Hunt has had, but he never got. I didn't think he ever got turned or shown his arse like he did a few matches ago in the first half.
Simon. He fell over.
He falls over every game. I think that's Dom's go-to. If he gets done, he falls over. I think that's he goes, shit, I've been done. I'll fall over.
I do that if Jaeger bombs a 3 for a tenner. So you know what I mean. It is the rules.
There was no peanut shots, mate. We were severely disappointed, by the way.
I tell you what. Look, Hollie. Let me come to you. Like Vic says there, Volts got dropped, and in the middle of the park we started with Backinson, Adena, and Bannon, and like Gaz Robinson said when he came on the show a couple of weeks ago, he said that that Byers, Bannon, and Volks were his don't tell his missus, but his new favourite triangle. Do you feel like that breaking up that midfield with the loss of Byers, obviously that was a forced change, was one of the main reasons why we didn't get hold of that game?
I think it definitely was. I think, everyone around us were a bit shell-shocked from about 5 minutes into the game because it was quite obvious that it was going to be a really bad day. But what else can you do? He's injured. We can't just wheel him out and play him anyway.
Listen, if Crystal Palace can do it with Roy Hodgson in the dugout,
and we had that game against Barnsley, which wasn't that long ago, and we've got another game that's not that long in front. So some people might not be able to play that many games. He might have thought they can play against these. I know I said that earlier, but surely they can play against Forest Green. To
be fair, it would have been the best opportunity to bleed in some of these players that have not had a good run in the side, right? You know what I mean? That's exactly what it is. Now, going forward, Vic, we had a couple of chances. I think Palmer hit one wide, and he says we had 3 shots on goal, by the way, the statistics. We had more shots on goal than them. I don't think that counts as on target, though. I mean, who's in charge of that?
Yeah, on target, did we?
That's what I said, but BBC's contradicting me today because I didn't see any on target, if I'm honest. And then who else do we have? We had one wide. I think Volts came on, didn't we?
Didn't we have a couple that were like a bit of a scramble? So that might be classed as on target.
Maybe.
I don't actually remember a chance. I mean, Barry Bannon's corners. Oh my God, Barry! He's just beat the first man.
Do you know what? Actually, Simon, I was gonna call this episode Marvin Johnson's Auntie from something that Vic said earlier on. I might just call it, oh my God, Barry. I don't know yet.
Barry, it wasn't his best game. You know what struck me, Hollie? I don't know whether you thought the same, but they sent very quiet. I mean, when I go and watch my lad play, you can hear them all. Cause we were about as close as what we are when we go down to Dinnington and watch like under 15s. But you can hear them all talking. You can hear them shouting. And they didn't seem very vocal. There was very little shouting.
I only heard Flint and Dawson, but obviously, eager mate.
I think there was one Palmer. It was one. I think when Palmer came, the ball came out in front of us, and that was the first time I'd heard anybody shout. But I can't repeat it on air because it was rather rude.
But the fans were quiet as well. The fans were really I don't know what happened there. It were a really weird atmosphere.
Did they put something in the vegan sausage rolls, do you reckon? Some sort of...
That vegan sausage roll was definitely an improvement on that vegan thing that I had at Portsmouth. Whatever that was. So...
Vic, get me out of this. Come on now. Let's talk about football. Jesus fucking... I was trying to get back to football. You've never had a vegan sausage roll?
No. Why would I? I'm not a vegan.
Well, neither Holly, but she had one at Auntie.
Well...
Sometimes the time and the place, isn't there? And the Forest Green really pushed it, didn't they? But anyway, back to
tell
football.
you what, I have done really well not getting in a no meat gag in your mouth and all the rest of it there. That's me growing, that is. I don't know if you got that, ladies and gentlemen.
You're a real life now. You're a real
I tell you what, listen, lads, before we move on from Forest Green, Holly, I want to know what your dad had to say about it all. Now, those of you that may know out there, Holly's dad used to be on this show. And when he gets drunk, when he consumes too much Special Oasis and the sugar gets to him, and he drops his fruit bag, some of his analysis are actually quite amusing. I mean, did he have anything to say on it?
No, it was one of them where he wasn't angry, he was just disappointed.
Oh, Steve.
God. Oh, they are. Listen to that, Barry et al. You are in proper trouble. He's not angry. He's just disappointed.
Stood at the side of the pitch, about a foot away from all players as they walked off, just clapping them like.
If we can go to that was because obviously I don't know whether you're going to discuss the outpouring of vitriol on social media.
Let's go for it. Get on it. Let's do it.
Yeah. Well,
it's you mean?
No. I don't. No, not at all. I was gobsmacked. I actually nearly ended up in a fight because there was a guy.
Simon. There's a lot we have to unpick in this episode, right? There's the two things you had to pull away from yourself. You were just mentioning you go down to Dinnington to watch under 15s, and then now you're getting in tear-ups in car parks. What's happening?
Look. So the final whistle goal goes, and there's 1,000 Wednesdayites not particularly happy. And you could see from the players, there was a couple, I think Volks came over and he was actually apologising to some of the fans. But more came over, and which some of the fans, one was proper having a go at him. It was horrible. And obviously Ethan's with me, and it was horrible. He was calling him all sorts of names. And I just said to him, mate, 23 games unbeaten. We're at the second in the league. What the fuck are you talking about? What do you mean? I said, you're talking rubbish. That weren't my words. And he obviously then he decided to turn his vitriol.
Was it James Marvin from Wednesday Till I Die podcast?
Mate, I don't know. He was an oldish chap, and the trouble was when we walked out, it was in front of me. But I met up with Ash and Steve, and we were just chatting and dissecting the game. And then he got with his mates, and then he turned again. And at this point, I just went, sling your up, pal.
Let Stevie on him.
But there was a couple who were really having a go. Vitriol at Darren Moore. It was to the point of pretty horrible, which I found just ridiculous. Yes, he's made mistakes, and he's not beyond criticism from that match. But 23 games unbeaten, second in the league, with still a game in hand. Fucking hell, that doesn't bite us on the arse. And people were turning. And I found that quite ridiculous, and I think it carried on into social media as well. And the trouble is, we all get very carried away with social media. It's 3 or 4 people doing it. It's not thousands of people doing it, and we all go, "Oh God, Wednesday fans are all wankers," because it's not. It's only a few, but the number of the fans having that go at the manager, it was like your dad was doing. It was slow clap. I was just shaking my head, going, "Mate, lads, come on, that was awful."
Well, I never get carried away, so.
you were off at conference by Sunday tea time, you.
It was just some of the fans just need to give their head a wobble. Really do. I
think it's interesting, Simon, because I was angry afterwards, and I just tweeted saying, what a shit show, because it was bad. I would have said that if we were playing, Real Madrid, if we were Argentina or whatever. It was a bad game of football. But then this morning I woke up and I thought, do you know what? If you'd have said to me, from 25 games, you'll have 2 losses by 3 goals, I'd have bitten your hand off. if I'd have been told all the rest would be 1 no-score draw, I think it was, 2 score draws, and the rest were all wins. I'd have absolutely snapped your hand off. And I tweeted it this morning just saying, look, it's not a bad run. It's 2 bad games. Fuck me, you should see my mentions. It's my fault. It is my fault. I went out there and I personally conceded that goal. It was all me. Honestly, the amount of people saying, oh, you don't deserve to be in the job. Oh, what do you know about football, you slag? And I just go through it and I just think, oh my God, we're back here. We're back here. For 23 games, it's been quite nice and quiet.
In the stand during the game, I don't think it were quiet, but we've been to games where we've been really bad and Wednesday fans have been really nasty. It were a bit like, if you ain't got a good to say, don't say anything at all. And everybody just went.
Hang on. Let me try and bring a bit of balance here, because I was genuinely going to ask you that question actually, Vic, about the is the 23 game unbeaten run an excuse? Because if I'm honest, it isn't. You know what I mean, right? No. As daft as it sounds, I believe that football form comes in crests and troughs, and after the last 3 games, I think we're in a bit of a shitty trough. Like it's a pretty poor. Yeah. It is a poor run of form. We've got 1 point out the last 9.
I know, and I am the most negative person ever. I know, but if we'd have gone 10 games, 1 loss, 5 games, 1 loss, 8 games, 1 loss, you wouldn't have even batted an eyelid. It's that we've so easy for so long, and because we are Sheffield Wednesday, we are the most arrogant football fans that have ever been. There's only Notts Forest that deserve the arrogance at the moment because they've actually gone and done it. Like, we still sit here and go, we used to have Chris Waddle and David Hurst and rolling it. Oh, we used to be a Premiership. Well, we're not. You've got Will fucking Volks and you're playing against Forest Green Rovers, right? And he's not even starting. So at the end of the day, you've gone 23 games unbeaten. Like, it's
do you not think that that's the? 2 games. Do you not think that's? Do you not think that's why everybody's lost their mind though? Right? Because we've had 23 games where we aren't lost, and we've absolutely battered teams.
We've had it easy, haven't we?
We've absolutely nailed them. So we've turned up at the bottom of the league. A team with 50 points ahead of us. Turned up against the bottom of the league.
Fighting for the life. But they're fighting for the life, aren't they?
But they weren't really fighting for the life. They a scrappy, these are crap, and they're really battling to stay up. It was just rubbish. No.
But I don't think that to like Wednesday night, when I get on my way home from Cheltenham, probably Thursday morning, we're not going to be sat in relegation zone, are we? So, come on.
I think it's the manner of the result of the loss, isn't it? Because against Bolton, I thought they were a decent side. I thought Bolton were a decent side. Barnsley, we basically shafted ourselves in 20 minutes, didn't we? You know, and if that first 20 minutes hadn't have happened, I think we would have won that game, and I think we would have won it quite easily. And whatever a Barnsley fan says, you know, standing in front of club shops, holding all 6 fingers up in one go, whatever they do, they'll take that cup final and they'll run with it. Unfortunately, Hollie's got to live with 2 of them. But, you know, and I thought we battered them, and that 4-2 didn't belie the actual performance. Sunday was different thing. And the trouble was, there was a huge amount of rhetoric before that game of, you know, they're bottom of the league. They haven't won since Christmas. 8-0. 8-0. We're going to see a reaction from Tuesday. There was interviews. Oh, we're really hurting. Will Volks are really hurting. Barry Bannon, we're really hurting. We're going to come out. I mean, I didn't see it. I've not watched it off Sky, but I would imagine they interviewed people beforehand, and they just basically showed the gulf between the 2 sides. And there's a certain amount of arrogance Wednesday fans turning up. I think we probably felt that we were going to turn up. We didn't really need to sing. We didn't really need to perform. They're going to turn up. They're going to beat them. We're going to go off the pitch. And that didn't happen. So there was that dose of reality. I now worry because I saw a little bit of what we saw last season in the team and in the faces. We had a couple of shitty results last year, which we said we'll bounce back from. And it took 3 or 4 games to bounce back. And unfortunately, these are our game in hands. And I always prefer this. I hate this. We've got 2 games in hand. Remember, mind the gap year. I'd rather have the points. Mind the gap year. Sheffield United, 5 points ahead, so many games in hand. Who went up? Wednesday. Right.
So are you saying that we're Sheffield United in this scenario?
No. I've got a long memory and I remember that. And football's an unkind, unkind beast, isn't it?
Yeah, but at this point at last season, Rotherham had a little wobble, didn't they? And we
They
thought
did.
that we were going to
Well,
catch
there
them,
was a
and
lot-
then they just went, nah.
I think there was a bit more of a gap though, wasn't there, Holly? I think there was quite a bit of a gap between the top two, Wigan and them, to us. We've never. The trouble this season, any other season, we'd have walked this league, but bloody Ipswich and Plymouth have kept with us all the way. And we all thought, certainly Plymouth, we all thought that Plymouth would drop away. I think all of us thought that. I think Barnsley have got a stutter to come yet. But Ipswich, they're flying and they've spent fortunes, and everybody's now obviously quoting, should have spent money in transfer market. You know, hindsight is a very wonderful thing. You know?
I mean, what I tell you what, Vic, what did you think? You know, we were talking about strength and depth. We spoke about this on this show 1,000 times. Do you feel like we needed to strengthen in January in the situation we were, given how many different players we had for each position? Because that's going to be something that's going to get drawn upon if we don't reach promotion.
Yeah, I think maybe in hindsight, like Simon said, it's bitten us on the arse. But I certainly came away from transfer window feeling more positive than negative, because I think the players that we kept were worth more than signings. And I think...
And replacing McGuinness with someone like Flint as well.
Exactly.
Not too shabby, right?
Yeah, you've literally gone like for like, maybe even a bit better because you've got more experience, right? You've not got maybe the same pace, but you've got the experience and the confidence against someone like Iorfa. So,
big sexy Aidan Flint there.
Oh yeah, lovely. With his headband. Oof. But yeah, I think there could have been far more negatives from a January transfer window than what we've had. I think we could have easily lost 2 or 3 players and brought in a couple. And actually, you know, we could have been back down the Connor Wickham route again. We could have been in all these different places, and we're not. We've walked away. Yeah, all right, we've got a couple of injuries now, but we've still got that strength and depth. Like, yeah, all right, we're missing Windass, but we've still got Smith and Gregory. Yeah, they were shite on Sunday, but we've still got them. You know, we've still got a relatively decent midfield. We've still got a very good defence. There's only 1 or 2 players that we are missing. If you look at, Byers, and there are players like that you think, oh shit, we could really do with him back. But actually, it could have been a lot worse.
I think Patterson would have done a job.
And Patterson as well. Getting him back will be a huge...
And possibly
huge
against
thing.
Barnsley.
And I think if we get all them back by the end of the season, which we're allegedly supposed to, Moore's said that none of them really are out for the season, maybe Patterson, but there's even sniffs of him coming back beforehand. So,
So you reckon it's just a depth issue because we've been unlucky with injuries, which I'm pretty sure you and I on this show have spoken about a number of times. You know what I mean? Especially when we had an entire first 11.
Yeah, do you have 5 players per part? Like, what do you do? He's been quite clever in who he's signed, in that, Liam Palmer, you can play him in probably 3 or 4 positions. You could probably even play him up front. You could put him in net, to be honest. Like, he's quite happy. So
He's happy, just having a run out, the lad. Just give him a go.
I think the depth we've got is very good. It's just that they haven't stood up to the plate, have they?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who could have forecast that Backinson was just going to stand like a scarecrow in the middle of the park yesterday?
Well, Simon, you and I were...
That was it.
Simon, you and I were at that game at Southampton, and I thought Backinson was one of the standout players.
Yeah, he had a right game. The trouble is, I always question, because I've got a lot of... Nigel Pearson, was his manager at Bristol. And he actually basically put out, come and get him to anybody. And obviously Pearson was known as a no-nonsense centre-back who, heart bled for Wednesday. And obviously he's had his issues at other at Leicester and stuff, for players misbehaving, etc., and chastising them. And he did actually say that he wanted rid of Backinson because he was lazy. And we took him on, and when the first few games he played in, I thought we got a right player here. We have really signed for a big lad, very technical, very good.
Didn't he score like a wonder goal as well in one of his first few games?
Yeah, I think he did, and he looked a good technical box-to-box player who was strong, physical, all the sort of things that you'd love as a single player. And then he's coming in and out the side, and then, like I say, when we saw him at Fleetwood in the cup replay, he was dogger, just shocking. And we all three of them, FDB and the Dennerin, and then again he was exactly the same. And I don't know. I don't know.
I think FDB is going to find himself just getting last 10, 15 minutes of the remaining fixtures in the season, and then that's him done. I think I don't think he's done anything really to make us go, give this lad a chance. He can pick up where Bayer's left off, because he hasn't. There's been times when he's marauded and he's harried and he's chased, and I just don't think that's been this season. That's
gone out of it. Didn't he handball it when the ball was going out for a throw-in? And he just handballed it. So rather than the ball going out for throw-in, it was a free kick. And you just thought, that was brilliant. Why?
There's no cure for stupidity. Right then, Hollie, listen, we've done nearly 40 minutes on this game. I'm going to give you the soapbox here to bring it home. I want you to summarise it for me. I want you to go, you know what I mean? Is it going to be a case of let's all lose our heads, that was the worst game of football I've ever seen, or is it going to be a keep the faith rousing speech? What do you reckon?
I've come full circle. I'm on board with it. I think that's it now. That's us blip over.
That's really pissed me off.
I've got Stockholm syndrome now. That's it. I love them. We'll get promoted. It'll all be fine. So,
are you now in an abusive relationship where you're just allowing everything now, and you know what I mean? And
Wednesday are toxic. Do you know, it took me a really long time to get over my existential dread with Wednesday. I finally got over it, and then they just went, nah. We're crap against us. Finally got used to winning, and they went, lost to Forest Green.
Fair enough. Well, I don't know what that noise is. If I could spell it, that was going to be the name of the show this evening. You know what I mean? We can go, we lost to Forest Green. So, listen, I'm going to move it on. I might put some adverts in at this point. Don't know.
Before we...
Balls.
Ghoulies.
Chaps.
Tackle.
Knackers.
Chaise long and armchairs.
Dangleberries. Manscaped even threw in 2 free gifts to their Performance Package 4.0, the Manscaped Boxers and Shed Travel Bag. Bring your comfort and boxers to another level.
Cojones.
Pebbles.
Gonads.
Plums.
Family jewels. Brass clankers.
The 4th generation trimmer features our cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. It's also waterproof and has a 4K LED spotlight if you need a more advanced shave.
Eggs.
Itchy and Scratchy. Mitchell Brothers.
Jewels.
Hanging Brain.
Twin Bank Robbers.
Chaps. Walnuts.
Gobstoppers.
Gooseberries.
Stabilizers.
The Manscaped 4.0 bundle. It reduces your risk of getting an ingrowing hair, it keeps them clean, it keeps them tidy, and it also increases your chance of fellatio by about 15%. That works out about 2% if you're married. So, you know. Anyway, enter the code TWW20 into the checkout. That's TWW20 into the checkout, and you can get yourself a 20% discount. Not too shabby, eh?
For our European listeners, Velata, Testicular.
Go on, Hollie.
I was going to say, before we go any further, can we just have a moment for that Bernard's shorts that he definitely lost his ass?
He was
honestly, he's like a lead from Jack Grealish, isn't he? Them thighs.
Even I don't wear my shorts like that. At one point, he went down injured, and everybody was just talking about that he were having his shorts removed from his ass.
Actually, there was quite a good shot where he went down injured, and it like panned on Sky. It panned to like him and his tiny little shorts, and then it like moved upwards, and there was Chris McClure stood in the crowd. But it obviously you just take it in as Steve Bracknell, just staring at him like, fucking get up, pal. And I couldn't watch it as Chris. It was just Steve Bracknell. It was absolutely classic. We were all in the pub and everyone went, hey, it's Steve Bracknell.
Is he not Duncan Smith's number 2 yet? Is he?
I know, he should be. He should be.
Right, listen, I'm going to move on to something pretty serious now anyway. So, as some of you are old enough to remember, we used to have some players that played for England. And one of them was a big marauder, what would you call him? Centre-back, defensive midfielder in big, tall Brummie called Carlton Palmer. You've probably heard him on the radio, on Talk Sport and things like that, offering his opinions in his West Country drawl. But he had a bit of a bad time of it. I just giggled then. I tried to just change it up then. I just giggled. But he had a bit of a bad time of it while he was running the Sheffield half marathon. He had a suspected, and the way, was it him that worded it on Twitter as a suspected small heart attack?
Small one.
You know what I mean?
He's been training with his wife to do the half marathon. And I think the words were, I had a bit of an issue with my heart because he's had a heart attack before a few years ago. And I think he's had heart bypass surgery. Anyway, so he said, I had a bit of a problem with my heart, so I slowed down and my wife went on, but I finished it and then I went down to the Northern General.
Jesus.
That man is a machine. He's an absolute machine. I know from when I worked at Cavendish Cancer Care, and obviously we used to talk about a lot back on the pod back in the day, he was one of our biggest supporters, and he would just email us in the middle of the night and be like, "Hi Vic, it's Carlton. I'm going to run 10 marathons next week for Cavendish. See you later." And he'd just do it.
Midfield again.
Honestly, he'd just do it and send us the money. We'd be like,
he's the player that you wished that Backinson was, isn't he? You know, he's a similar sort of build, and you think he's going to be that sort of player that's going to go to and fro. And unfortunately, he didn't. He's not. So he's a great. Yeah, they kept him overnight for observation and test. His words were, "Heart played up again in the first mile, but I managed to complete the course." That's his text.
He had another 12 to go.
A half marathon. He thought, "Oh, my heart hurts."
And then he put his time and his heartbeats per minute and everything on Twitter.
Well, this is what I wanted to read out. Actually,
it's not clever though, lads. Like seriously, if that happens, just sit down.
Yeah, it's happened, isn't it? Now, this is the way that the BBC have worded it, right? It says they wanted to find out what caused this problem, so tests are ongoing. I'll keep you updated. Cheers, Carlton. And then it says, Palmer tweeted a picture of his training summary, which showed he completed the course in 2 hours, 9 minutes and 21 seconds.
Yeah.
I did a half marathon. It took me just shy of 4 hours, right? And that was 10 years ago. And then he said, but also had a maximum heart rate of 232 beats per minute.
Yeah.
That's mental. And then the BBC have decided to chuck in a few caveats about Carlton. And it says in 2016, he required life-saving 5-hour operation for a heart condition. And then it goes on to say, in September 2021, at the age of 55 and manager of Grantham Town, Palmer named himself as a substitute in the Northern Premier League game against Ashton United, but did not come on. Like, and you know when people use the term levels, you know when they say levels, I do not have that drive. You know what I mean? I can't stand up and sit down without making a noise. And he's naming himself as a substitute at 55. Mad as a fish in petrol. Anyway, it's that time. It's that time of the quiz you've all been. Time of the quiz. It's that time of the show you've all been waiting for. It's the quiz. Now, I've tried to make this one a little bit easier for you tonight, folks, because as you know, these quizzes go, can you name this? And we never get to the bottom of the list. And it's normally me reading out about 50 other options that we've all forgotten and never got, right? So I'm going to go in order of what I've got written down here. I've got Simon, Hollie, Vic. Right, so the question's really easy. Sheffield Wednesday, in their last game in the Premier League, played Leicester City 4-0. This was our last ever Premier League game to date. So can you name, not the substitutes, can you name the starting 11 from that day? 2000. Come on. It should be there in your head, 2000. So last Premier League game, 4-0 against Leicester City. Simon, you're going to go first.
Gerald Sibon.
Ooh la la, Sibon. I've just closed it on my screen. No, he didn't play.
Joking.
No, we didn't. Up front was not Gerald Sibon, so I'm afraid that's you out already, Si, on the first round. My apologies.
Yay!
Right, Hollie, here's your opportunity to have your best ever streak on this quiz and get past the first round. Are you ready, H? Go on, babe.
Alexanderson.
Nicholas Alexanderson was one of the goal scorers that day. So, yes, he was there. Well done, babe. I feel like we should get you a trophy or something because that's the best you've ever done on this, right?
I'd rather have Alexanderson.
If you listen back to our March 2021, March the 17th podcast, it's just me and him. And Nicholas Alexanderson is not the fun time geezer that you'll expect him to be. And there's a wonderful bit.
After that game, he pretended that he didn't speak English when I asked him if he was going to stay at Wednesday. And I've heard him speak English many times after that.
Non habla inglés. Why you picked Spanish, I don't know. Right. Vic, what have you got? Last game, 4-0 Leicester.
I'm making notes, right?
Go on.
Kevin Pressman.
Kevin Pressman did play in goal. Hollie, it's back to you.
Oh, no. Cresswell?
Richard
No,
Cresswell.
Nut job. Surely
Richard
not.
Cresswell did get on that game. He came on as a substitute appearance. So I'll give it to you because he did play in that. Did I? I did specifically say no substitutes, didn't I?
Yeah.
But that he played though, didn't he?
You know what? Keep it up because I've got a list here and I reckon I'm
All right, let's go. Let's go.
Oh,
Go
you
on,
can
then.
tell she's doing bloody quizzes now, can't you?
In it.
Oh,
In it.
dear.
Go on, Vic.
Ian Bloody Nolan.
Ian Bloody Nolan, absolute king of the fullbacks. There he is, better than Liam Palmer. Ian Nolan did play that game, yeah. Go on, Hollie. It is an audio medium, so silence is a bit of an issue here.
Can't you hear the cogs turning? I'm trying to think.
Come on, blow the dust off. Go on.
Des Walker?
Des Walker did play. Went on to back to Nottingham Forest after that game. Back to
he
you, Vic.
ignored me as well when I asked him.
Peter Atherton.
Peter Atherton did play. Went on to Bradford City after that game. Right, back to you, Hol.
She's actually fist bumping about this, you know.
Yeah, I'm crossing them out.
Going, yes.
But right, Atherton.
Wait,
yeah.
hold up again.
No.
I don't know.
Come on, this is the best you've ever done.
And the worst I've ever done. But let me think. Wait a minute.
It'd be 2000, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I'm actually shocked that Gerald Seaborn wasn't on here, actually, looking at these players.
He must be
I don't know. Richie Humphries.
Richie Humphries did not play that game. Right, Vic, here's an opportunity to absolutely shove it in their face. You need to get one to win, and then I'll take the full list that you've got. Go on.
Oh, right. Oh, okay. I'll go Wim Jonk.
Wim Jonk did play. You're the winner on this quiz, Vic. What else have you got to absolutely smash it home?
I've only got, after that, proof. I've got Alan Quinn and Andy Booth.
Alan Quinn and Andy Booth did play. The starting 11 of that day was Pressman, Atherton, Hinchcliffe, Des Walker, Ian Nolan, Nicholas Alexanderson.
Didn't play. He was injured throughout his entire time.
Nicholas Alexanderson, Wim Jonk, Alan Quinn played, Andy Booth and Gilles de Bilder, and the one player that was missing in midfield was that Sheffield Wednesday legend himself, Mr. Barry Horn. So,
Barry Horn.
Wow, no wonder we went down.
So, yes, exactly that. You know what I mean? So when you're looking around going, why did Sheffield Wednesday go down? They used to have a right team. Used to. We got relegated with Barry on.
And it'd be interesting to see out of all those who started the first game in the Championship.
Well, we know Pressman did, didn't we?
A lot of them left, didn't they? A lot of them left.
Well, here we are. So we've got Pressman went to Leicester to be their reserve keeper. Atherton went to Bradford. Andy Hinchcliffe then retired. Des Walker went back to Nottingham Forest. Ian Nolan went to Bradford because everybody went there, didn't they, at that point? Alexanderson fucked off to Everton. Pressman did stay, didn't he?
Yeah, he did stay, yeah.
Barry Horn, it just says here Kidderminster Harriers. Whether he stayed until 2001, I think he did, actually, in the following season. Wim Jonk then just gave up football. Alan Quinn stayed around and then inevitably went to the Dirty Blades. Andy Booth went to Huddersfield Town. But if I remember rightly, did he not do a month at Spurs and then come back to us to play that last game?
Yeah,
mental. And then De Bilder went to Anderlecht. So, not many of them stuck around, to be fair.
Because I just remember Sibon playing in the Championship, so that's what
he did. Because he was pretty poor in the Premier League and then actually became one of our top boys in the Championship. But in the interim, folks, before we go into our Cheltenham predictions, does anybody have any other business?
Oh, good. I have something, but I can't say too much.
All right, it sounds like you've got something that needs to be cured by a cream. Put it on twice a day and then give me a call in the morning.
I can't say too much, but those who know me will probably know what I'm talking about.
I'm glad you brought this up, whatever it is.
I'll tell you offline in a bit.
Can't wait.
Saturday night, Anton Deck's Saturday night takeaway. Watch it on Saturday.
Oh, all right. There's a little preview for you there, folks. So in the
Just let me
interim,
know afterwards because I don't watch it and I've never watched it.
You should
I tell you what, I don't mind the little one. It's
You'll
the one
enjoy
with the
it.
big forehead. Can't abide him. The fact that he managed to convince everybody that he was unwell when really he's a scumbag. Absolutely worst thing in the world. Right, listen. Cheltenham. Got Cheltenham coming up, Simon. I'll need a prediction from you, sir. What you saying?
Oh my God. We've got to win it. We've got to turn this corner. I know it's only 2 games, but we've got to win. This is that game in hand. So I'm going scrappy 2-1. Scrappy 2-1, but Wednesday to Wednesday. Yeah.
2-1, Simon. Hollie, what about you, babe?
I think it's all going to be fine, everybody. I think it'll be 2-0.
2-0. Hollie's going 2-0. And Vic, what about you, darling? What are you saying? What are you saying?
Well, I think this is my first away game of the season.
Oh no! Don't jinx us.
I know. I won't be wearing that fucking hoodie from Wednesday till I die again. Last time I wore that, all hell broke loose.
If you're listening, James Mappin, my apologies. Vic's just doomed us just by
Do you
buying
know
a
what?
hoodie, apparently.
They're a good quality hoodie. I'll give them that. I will give them that.
Can't argue with quality.
And I paid for it. I'm not going for free. I will go 1-3 Wednesday.
1-3 to the Wendy's. I tell you what, I was going to go 3-0 as it goes. Now, let me read you out. Normally, I always forget this bit because we're normally woefully wrong, but I thought I'd read you out some of the predictions from the other gang before Forest Green. So, Blair went with 3-0. Ben went with 8-0. Ash went with a 1-0 win for the Wendy. And I went with 6-0. So, these...
That went well.
Well.
Yeah, well done.
So I feel like we did really well. But
Were you putting a bet on as well? Were you going to put a bet on?
Oh shit! Yeah, I owe Ash money now, don't I?
Yeah.
My friend Sean had £18. I think it was £15.80 on like a 6-fold that would have brought in some big money, and we let him down.
Yeah. I had.
Don't pick a Sunday 1:00 kickoff on an acca.
I know.
I know. Do you know what? It was such a dead cert. I had quite a big accumulator on as well, and Kazakhstan were losing 2-0 by the 75th minute and won 3-2, and Sheffield Wednesday lost 1-0. Worst day of my life. Up the bets. So follow me for more betting tips. Don't forget to press the like and subscribe button. In the meantime, ladies and gents, thanks a lot to Hollie, Vic, and Simon for joining us this evening. It's been an absolute pleasure. In the meantime, see you later.
The Wednesday week is sponsored by Michael Constantine Wealth Management. We bet you can't find a financial advisor closer to Hillsborough Stadium.